Now, Brother Bob brought up some matchups that do concern him. Do you have any other matchups that might concern you in this head-to-head?
Yeah, I think that the run defense. I think that look, last night was a masterclass in how not to play run defense. It's just there are so many times again missed tackles. There were multiple times I went back and watched a little bit. Chase Young, I really want to like Chase Young, and Chase Young against the run he's in position to make plays. And there were a couple of times where he tried to do the linebacker like safety, like shoulder shiver, instead of just taking his big old, pythons and like wrapping them up. And like it's so much of that. And I think that in a team like this, look, no David Montgomery. I love David Montgomery, former Iowa State Cyclone, just like Brock Purdy, right? He's not Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs scares me.
No.
The great thing about it, though, is that the Lions tend to forget that Jahmyr Gibbs exists. So look, if they want to go split, I'm not saying Montgomery's not a scrub. Let's just be correct. I'm not saying that about David Montgomery. But the way that Aaron Jones was able to wreak a little havoc last night, and the quality of offensive line that team has, this team, I look, Ben Johnson is relatively balanced as a play caller. I am not as concerned of the wide receiver matchups as other people are. I know Ambry Thomas had a clunker of a game. Amon St. Brown is a stud. Sam Laporta is a great young tight end. I'm very comfortable with our linebackers in coverage in those matchups. I really am. I'm comfortable with Demo Lenore right now and Mooney Ward right now and Tayshaun Gibbs. I'm comfortable with that. What I want to see is our front seven, that defensive line, not get blown off of their assignments and be able to shed blocks and stem the tide with the run. And I think if they can do that, if they can really focus on how to stop the run, I think this will be. I like them. I like the matchups. I get Jameson Williams has speed. I get these guys. I know that we're kind of stung with Ambry Thomas and what he did last night. I still feel like in most situations, Ambry Thomas was in a couple situations last night where he did not need to commit the DPI. Matter of fact, though, he did. So, yeah, I'm more worried about the run game, and because I don't think the 49ers run defense has been an issue for a little bit.
I agree with you. I think that there have been, you look at the totals and you say, all right, this run defense has been great. And it's funny because I do these behind enemy line shows every week. And it seems like every week when I talk about our run defense being a little bit suspect, the person that I'm talking to is surprised. They're like, well, I'm just looking at the totals. Like, this is the first time I'm hearing of this. The run defense? Really? I didn't think we'd be able to run the ball. It's like, well, there's a few things that play into this. First of all, the 49ers are usually up big, so it takes teams out of the run game. Mm-hmm. And the 49ers at times, for whatever reason, have gotten lucky. Like Minnesota is a great example. Minnesota was running the ball all over the 49ers. But because Kirk Cousins was playing so good, they just stopped running the ball. But they could have ran the ball, even though they don't have great backs. They don't have the best offensive line. So at times, the 49ers have been susceptible to the run game. Now, it's interesting that no running back until last night for 51 games had gone over 100 yards as an individual player. But when I look at the Detroit Lions, I look at that offensive line, even if Jackson doesn't play, Montgomery and especially Gibbs, really, I think Gibbs should be getting a 70-30 split. And I think Montgomery's good, but Gibbs is just that much better. He's so explosive. He's such a difference maker. And he can do a lot of that CMC thing where if Goff is about to get hit, he's got the safety valve in Gibbs, who's always going to be there. And once he gets the ball in his hands, he's very explosive. We saw him take over this game, essentially. Yep. He was the reason that they won this game late. He started to take it over once they put him in and kept him in for back-to-back drives, essentially. Gibbs is a weapon. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a weapon. Laporta, you can tell, is not fully himself, but he's still available and is a guy that can beat you. This offense can put up points, and they can do it in bunches at times. So that is something that I'll be looking at as well. And I would say this defense, as great as the names are for the San Francisco 49ers, at times have been a bit underwhelming. Now, they've always gotten big stops when they needed them. Last night was a great example where Green Bay was driving and couldn't punch it in. But how long can you live on that edge? And if they allow Detroit to just drive, and now you've got a Detroit Lions team that's going to be aggressive and go for it on fourth down, can you stop a team like this consistently for 4 downs? I don't know. That's a question I have. So you might get yourself into a shootout. Now, flip side of that, we just talked about the 49ers should be able to put up plenty of points. We don't worry about Detroit Lions and their defense.
No.
However, do you want to be in a shootout? I don't know that that's ideal. So
yeah, I think that this is the thing, and I know people thought. I thought that the 49ers. People were like, "Why 49ers fans think it's going to be a blowout against the Packers?" Well, a multiple score game is a blowout. I mean, the line was -10. It actually jumped up to -10.5. Okay, before the game. So that's not it's not dumb to think that the 49ers were going to win by multiple scores against the Packers. And also the weather came into play. There's lots of different things that went into play. Credit to the Packers. Look, this line is going to be around 7. And this defense, I guarantee you, of any defense in the playoffs. And look, the Packers, everybody on paper, like, right, the run game. But again, the rain, we still don't know. I'm sorry, I cannot gauge just because of how poorly Brock Purdy plays with a wet ball, like exactly what that would have looked like in normal conditions. But we know the weather. Yeah. There's 0% chance of precipitation, 0% chance. Okay.
Love
that. It's not going to be windy. It is going to be partly cloudy to sunny. It's going to be hot. It's going to be in the 60s the entire game, starting around like 68, 70, and on the field probably around 70. It's going to be beautiful.
That benefits both quarterbacks, though, because Goff outside is a different player, right? But with no elements, that helps him as well.
It does, but here's the thing about Goff, and it'll change a little bit this year. Jared Goff last year on the road was one of the worst quarterbacks in turnover-worthy plays. The Lions are much, much better in the dome. They're much better at Ford Field. Now they changed a little bit of that fate here this year. But there are multiple games where, I'm not saying that the 49ers can just rely on that like that's some magical benefit. But I will say this: I think Jared Goff has shown in his career that when the lights get pretty big, when it gets loud, and I'm telling you, Levi's is going to be rocking. And if there's some pressure, Jared Goff can show you why the Rams moved off of Jared Goff. And Kyle Shanahan knows exactly what that means. And so that's, to me, despite the weapons that are at play, I think what this game is going to boil down to is the 49ers will score points. The 49ers can run the ball against the Lions. They can pass the ball. They will score points. And whether this is a shootout, it's all about whether or not the Niners can maybe generate at least one turnover and get in Jared Goff's head. And I really believe that they're capable of doing that. Now, that doesn't mean that this isn't going to be a good game. We've seen what's happened with some of these games. I'm just saying the Niners know what's in front of them. The Niners know what's in front of them. They're not going to overlook the Lions, obviously, but they're going to be ready. And I think anytime you're going in an NFC Championship game at home, when you're facing a defense that's as porous as the Detroit Lions are, and are as matchup poor as the Detroit Lions defense is, you have to be confident in those situations.
Ooh, I just thought of another topic because
sure,
we'll get to it in a second, but I'm typing it out here because that got me thinking. There are some things that I'm excited about in this game, but before we get there, we'll go with Mike Drops. He says, Amon-Ra in the slot, offensive line versus defensive line on both sides. Their running backs versus our bad tackling, McKivitz versus Hutch. I do not like this matchup. Their O-line is better than Green Bay's. Yeah, this team is pretty good. They're good, but they're flawed. They're very, very flawed. So as good as they are, there's going to be some matchups that favor them, but there are many matchups that favor the 49ers as well. So Mike Drop says Ambry versus Williams, most troubling matchup. They just don't use him like that, but you're right. I mean, his speed, his straight line speed can be interesting. Now, Ambry's quick himself.
He's not fast slow. Himself. That's the thing. Ambry gets in situations where he just makes boneheaded decisions, even when he's good in coverage, or that he gets grabby. I mean, I don't mind getting a holding penalty every now and then if you're like, hey, I missed this. Okay, 10-yard penalty, I'll take it, right? 5, whatever. It's like illegal contact. But like the DPI stuff, like I don't know. I mean, he can clean that up. But to be quite honest, I'd rather have Ambry Thomas and Jamison Williams than, Isaiah Oliver, right? Or so let's just, so I'm not that worried. Jameson Williams, I don't even know if Jameson Williams had more than 2 targets today.
Yeah, no,
but he only needs one, right?
Reynolds, yeah, that's it. And Reynolds is pretty good too. They've got good receivers. They've got good receivers.
They do.
James says, don't want to hear no rah from this chat this week. This is going to be a battle, especially if Debo isn't there. Good point. If we played these Lions last night the way that we came out, we would have been out. Yeah, that's a possibility, man. And I agree. The one thing that we shouldn't do is puff out our chests, because we saw how close that game was. And I don't think Green Bay's as complete as Detroit is. I think Detroit's a better team than Green Bay. I do. Brother Bob says, Nails, when is behind enemy lines? Same day and time. I'm trying to work that out right now. Hopefully, it'll probably be Wednesday. I just don't know the time yet. So I'll let you guys know as soon as I know. Adam Paul says, Jesse and Dave, I'll be at the game. Nice. He says, hope to say what's up. This is the matchup that I wanted. Not the easier matchup, but the best potential game. Go Niners. I agree with you. And yes, 100% would love to say what's up to you at the game, brother. Mm-hmm. Cryptic says it's going to come down to the QBs. Goff threw some at the Bucs tonight, and they didn't capitalize the same way Green Bay didn't capitalize against Purdy. Lions will come in punching the Niners. The Niners have to punch harder. That is one thing that we are going to get. The Lions will be physical. They will match the 49ers physicality, and that'll be interesting. That'll be fun.